Welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Matt Southam. Here, we delve into candid conversations with entrepreneurs, exploring both their business journey and their secrets to maintaining mental well-being. As we navigate the balance of ambition and inner peace, I hope you find insights, inspiration, and invaluable takeaways in every episode. Thank you for joining us. Hi Stuart, welcome to the show today. I want to start just by simply asking you to introduce yourself and provide some context to what you do now. So tell me about your background.
Hi Matt, thanks for having me, really appreciate it. My background is a little bit diverse actually. I left school and didn't go to college or sixth form in the UK, so I was in the UK obviously. Didn't do any post-secondary education to start, so I went actually straight into a modern apprenticeship actually in plumbing, heating and gas engineering, so mechanical services. And I kind of learned on the job that way, so spending day release at college while working on the tools during the week. And it was through that kind of process where my college actually encouraged me towards the end to consider applying for a part-time degree at the local university, which I'm not sure if you can tell by my accent was obviously up north in the country. So they really encouraged me to do it. It's not something I was actually aware was available to me, so it wasn't for them. It probably never would have happened. And obviously, I jumped at the chance. I've always been somebody who likes to kind of progress and better themselves as I go. And yeah, when I started that part-time degree, I was still working, in the services industry, progressing through the course as I go part-time. And it was from then that I kind of moved from a sort of a more contracting side to consultancy. I was then encouraged by my current employer at the time to progress my degree further into, sort of a master's level degree as well, and which they supported me through and were really supportive through that process. And it was from there that I kind of, decided, from being small town up north, that I would gradually progress further to south to the capital and start working on some more things down there. And it was from there that I, through circumstance, really established a kind of our business in the UK back in 2017, and have been working ever since in that realm. As consultant engineers, we work in building services. Obviously, we specialise in modular design for MEP and sustainability and other things like that. So yeah, basically just took it from there, and we've been doing it ever since. And every year has been different and been exciting as we go. So yeah.
Yeah, so would you almost say you've been an accidental entrepreneur? You came out of school, maybe you went into the job, but you weren't too sure what you were going to do. But at each stage, someone said, "Why don't you do this?" And before you know it, you've ended up where you are.
It's a really good way to look at it, an accidental entrepreneur, because I remember as early 20s, my father used to say, if you want to be able to control your own future, you need to, be working for yourself in your own business. And I remember seeing how stressed and, not happy my father was running his own business. And so my answer was always, not do my own business, never going to do my own business, not interested. I'm just going to collect a salary. I'm going to work and somebody else can have all the stress and the worry. And it was through redundancy actually that forced myself and my co-founder's hand at the time. And we kind of realized and said to ourselves, well, we're doing this for somebody else at a good level. Why couldn't we do it for ourselves? And it's only then that I realized actually you probably work harder and longer when you work for yourself than you do when you work for somebody else anyway. So yeah, but then it comes with the stress as well. So it's kind of a double sandwich. But yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, there's always been somebody kind of encouraging me, or I would say mentoring me for every stage of my career. And that, that's not always been the same person. There's always been a person, I think, who is relevant to that level that I'm looking to achieve. Currently, my kind of mentor now has come from a level so high that I probably won't be losing him anytime soon, because he's from quite a high. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that having that mentor and someone to help propel you forward, I think all of us, I mean, and certainly I have, whether it's imposter syndrome or just not knowing exactly what the next stage is. And sometimes someone with a bit of an outside view, someone to ground you, someone just to, give you a little bit of a push actually really and helps you sort of reach the ambitions that actually you're capable of reaching, but maybe you wouldn't have stepped outside your comfort zone to do it.
Correct. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people can get a little bit carried away with their own. I don't mean this in a horrible way, but sometimes you can get carried away with the waves when you're successful sometimes, or you're having a good run, and you can almost feel like, well, I know it all now. I'm untouchable. I don't need anybody's advice. But actually, people's advice, no matter what age they are or where they're from or what level they're from, is really crucial. Because for me, it's not about. I don't think you learn the most from your successes. I actually think you learn the most from your failures and your mistakes. And that's really where the growing can happen. And if you can work with somebody who's maybe made those mistakes before you have, you can almost try and circumvent them yourself, or at least know what to expect when they come along and manage them in a way you may not have managed previously.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, sometimes we see the successes of everyone else because that's what certainly nowadays is portrayed on social media and in the press. And I'm not saying we shouldn't recognize success, in those business goals or financial goals. I think that should be admired. But equally, you've got to understand that there's always a journey behind this. And more often than not, something hasn't gone right, or at least things haven't gone right every time. And I completely agree with you. We do learn more from those. And also having someone else's perspective on an idea. It's not that you're right, they're right. It's just we grow up learning just from our experiences, but everyone has different experiences, even though we're in the same world. So we're able to actually take some input from other people, and it maybe just adds a little bit to the conversation we're having inside our own head of what my next stage is.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I also like to speak to people in completely different sectors to what we work in as well. Sorry. Because as much as, we might look from construction or whatever sector we work in and say, oh, it's totally different in financial services, or it's totally different in car manufacturing or something like that. But the nuances are different, but at the end of the day, it's still people.
Yeah.
So I like to also see what their experiences are and talk to them. And, it's quite comforting sometimes to find out that, like you said, not just social media, but, the news outlets and things, you look at certain sectors and you think, oh, they've got it easy, or they make a fortune, or they're doing, they're untouchable, when actually they're really not. They're in the same boat as we are, and they're just trying to get along.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's so true. I think we do just look at other people, and we always sort of it's that natural thing we have of almost thinking they're doing better, or their sector's easier, or whatever. Yep. But actually, it's mainly because we don't understand it. And actually, you commented on it earlier that even though you were working in the sector, being employed and then running it yourself is actually a completely different game. Because you might be good at your job, but running a business isn't just about the job. There's so many other avenues that you need to understand.
Oh, so many. Yeah, it's a very complex system, and can be very overwhelming if you let it be, but it's also very rewarding as well. And as I say, I often get asked by people, when's the best time to set up a business? Do you think? When, look at the global economy, look at this, look at that. And actually the right answer is no time's the best time. I don't think. Just if you want to do it, just go for it. Normally, if you're passionate about what you do, then people will feel that passion and they will be attracted to that passion. And, with hard work, a bit of passion, a good wind, you'll do well to the point of where you want to do well. Now, doing well doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go out making millions or billions and become the next Elon Musk. That's not for everybody. No. And I'm sure, even being the likes of Elon Musk isn't an easy job. He probably works harder than, and this has not got any evidence back to it, but I'm sure he works harder than anybody else in his organizations. I mean, you have to. But success can come in other ways as well. It could be more flexible for you to, spend more time with family, or you can be, and really giving back to something that you're really passionate about, or providing quality to a service that isn't for profit. So yeah, I would agree 100%.
Yeah, I think you've touched on the point there that success can mean many different things. And we often do put a financial figure on it or something like that. But actually, at some point, for a lot of people, it's like, actually, I'm comfortable. And now the thing that I can't get any more of is time. I always sort of joke, and I know it's a very flippant sort of saying of you can always get more money, but you can't get more time, and I know just saying you can get more money makes it sound really easy, but in theory, there is, you can carry on working, you can do another job, you can get more money, but actually once time's gone, it's gone. And for a lot of people, actually having more time in their life to spend it doing the things they enjoy, so whether that is with family or hobbies or traveling or whatever, actually that can be seen as success as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's again going back to the thing, if you're passionate about it, and again, I know it sounds cliche, but if you do something you're passionate about, you'll never work another day in your life.
No.
And I've heard, I'm not the person who's invented that saying. I can't remember where I heard it, but it's true.
Yeah.
We're as a group and as a practice that we are now, we are quite, one of our big values is to help create and develop the engineers of the future, because we're not all going to be around forever. And, people say to me, what does that mean? Are you just talking about skilled people? Are you talking about people who are going to make a difference sustainably, or whatever it is? And actually, it boils down to as well that, well, we want people who, when they go to bed on a Sunday night, aren't going, I've got work tomorrow. Damn, can I call in sick or this, that? They do actually, hopefully going as far as saying they're excited to go to work because it's so, diverse, and there's so many exciting things going on. And, it's like my experience, it's different every day. Engineering offers so many wonderful opportunities, whether it's, locally, nationally, internationally. And again, not every day. If you're in the right place and you're working with the right people, then not every day is the same.
No, that's true. Let's touch on what it is you and your group do then. Talk me through the impact that you have at the moment.
So we're a company called CES Group. We are a multidisciplinary, fully integrated building performance company, basically. So we are consultant engineers. We specialize in mechanical, electrical, public health, so MEP, building services, sustainability. We have lots of other kind of disciplines that will take me a little while to list off, but basically we cover all of the, the kind of the building performance side of things, and we help towards high performing buildings. I think what people who don't understand engineering necessarily, when they say to me, explain what it is you do, I would always say, well, the architect is the person who would design the person's body and how they look. The structural engineer will design the skeleton to hold it up, and then we design everything else that makes it work, so all the organs and things. And unfortunately, it's not always the stuff you see, so sometimes we can be a little bit underappreciated, but without your heart and lungs, your body really wouldn't operate. And it's the same for a building. It might operate if it's done in a certain way, but you don't do it properly, it's going to fall over eventually. And this is where, quality of, workplace or quality of life or health and all this sort of stuff comes into play. So, yeah, that's what we are. So as a group, actually, we've been going for about 25 years now. So the North American side of our business is 25-year-old. The UK European side is about 7. We work all over the world, to be honest. We specialize in modular construction, as I mentioned earlier. We're about between 60 and 70 people now across all of our offices. So we operate quite a nice, we call it like a decentralized model. We don't really pigeonhole everybody into, one city center office and say, this is where you will work. I think if there's one thing or one positive, and I don't want to be controversial, but one positive that has come out of the kind of COVID era is that it's proven that, we can operate from different locations, so if we do find that because of the shift in the way people live, they're not all living in city centres, they're moving out here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
that if we do find, a really talented person in the middle of Timbuktu, we can put an infrastructure on that person. That person can be a real asset to our company. So which makes us really flexible as well. So we compete against some of the biggest global companies in the world. I'm not going to say any names, but yeah, we regularly, we win to them, we lose to them, we compete on a daily basis. But what sets us apart is that we also are able to be flexible and nimble enough to work on much smaller scale projects as well, so that we're really able to add that value to, smaller clients, the domestic clients, where, things like that, who maybe don't have the capital to be able to go to a big global giant or something like that, who are more, tiered to the big infrastructure projects or something like that. So, yeah. And again, we're really keen and we're really invested in our people. We want to, as I said earlier, we want to grow the next generation of really good engineers. And we also want to, make a difference as well. We have to be, we have to be commercially profitable. And a lot of people, I think, get scared to say that sometimes. It's not a bad word to be profitable.
No.
But it's the way you do it. And for us, we can't support the next generation. We can't support, our clients in the best way possible with the new, techniques or new facilities or whatever it might be if we're not profitable, because we couldn't reinvest into those things.
No.
So,
no. Yeah, I think that's really key. I mean, lots of people feel that if you're going to have, an impact on people and be sustainable and things like that, actually that's the opposite of, a commercial profit-driven business. But actually it's interlinked, because, you profit and cash, it's just oxygen for your business. You need it to survive. And if you're going to make a long-term impact, you do need to be sustainable in a financial sense as well, to continue growing, continue investing, and be able to, I guess, ride the wave. Because, you mentioned COVID, and actually, within property, that over the years, there has been lots of up and downs. Yeah, it all depends on the financial markets and things like that. Have you found that had an impact? I mean, COVID had a really, again, using a strange term, a positive impact on some trades, as in, in industries, they were just busier than ever, and others were almost destroyed. It was a very strange sort of situation. But there's also, obviously, the general financial markets as well. Do you find that there is up and downs for you?
I think there's certainly up and downs for different sectors within the industry we're in, for sure. I mean, residential is split. You've got affordable housing, you've got high-end residential, you've got super prime, whatever it may be. And I think there's certain parts of that definitely took a hit. The south of the UK, obviously, primarily has always been the highest price housing in the country. I don't think its growth was anywhere near what it normally is due to that. Again, I'm not a housing expert in the real estate sense, but for us, we've seen, let's talk about the affordable markets, for example. When COVID came around, a lot of these authorities and associations still had, obviously, budgets to spend, which I think was what helped that sector, definitely. I would say, the private markets maybe got hit a little bit harder, because obviously people are investing, let's say, their own money, and it doesn't help. But we also found that the cost of materials really didn't help, because we saw like almost 30% jump in cost of materials, and that affected everybody. I mean, a 30% jump on let's call it a £20 million bill, it's quite a considerable uplifting cost. And sometimes, and we've seen it a few times, is that can basically take the scheme from being viable to non-viable, because the cost return is not working.
No, we've certainly seen that in businesses, and I know on a local level, completely separate from the industry, the hospitality trade. I've known some local to me bars and restaurants and things that close, not because they weren't busy as such. It was just that the numbers didn't add up. The cost of all the energy supplies, the cost of food and beer and what they were buying in, just meant that the numbers didn't add up unless they were going to charge something ridiculous, and therefore it just didn't matter. So it didn't matter almost how many covers they turned over an evening. It just didn't add up. And yeah, there are sometimes, I think in business, you've got to understand that there's sometimes some outside influences or issues that actually can have a major knock-on effect to your business, regardless of how strong your business is and how great your processes are and how great your people are. Sometimes you do just get hit by something that's of no fault of your own.
I agree. Yeah. And I think it's also you look at the effect that, always trickles down to people at the end of the day. And, I get to travel to a lot of major North American cities with my job. And, we see the same in London as well and other European cities. But I know from my own experience that the levels of homelessness before and after COVID are miles apart, as in it's gone up exponentially. Now everyone could attribute that to cost of living crisis or energy costs and wars in certain countries or whatever it may be, but you can't take away the fact that there's a before and there's an after, and I'm sure it all kind of interconnects in some way. So it's not it's not just the fact that I agree that there's sometimes there's just nothing you can do when the wave comes along. But ultimately, it's always going to trickle down and it's going to affect people.
Yeah, no, people seems to be like a key pillar that you've spoken about a lot today, which is really good. So how do you look after your people, and then how do you look after yourself? Because I know as a business owner, I mean, you commented at the start how you work longer hours, you do this, you're dedicated. How do you step away from that and actually take some time for yourself?
Really good question. I mean, in the past, I never used to, and I did suffer greatly because of that. So I found, like you said, if you're working every hour under the sun, you're not allowing some people to help you. You're kind of trying to do it all yourself. I guess when you're a much smaller business, which is what we were, you have to act as judge, jury, and executioner almost, and you kind of your chef, plater, and pot washer. You do it all. Yeah. It's not healthy. I found after a couple of years, I was just getting sick all of the time. I was run down. You're picking up colds and flus, 4 times a year or 5 times a year rather than every couple of years. And it made me realize then that, I'm trying to create something wonderful, but if I'm not around, I can't do that. If this is going to wipe me out or cause me some long-term damage. So I think the first step is you kind of have to trust the people around you a little bit, not necessarily delegate and say, you do this, you do that, but definitely trust and allow people to help that little bit more. If you put the right people around you and get the right people on board who are in, the same vision, the same, desires and goals as you, then naturally that they will start to help as well. And I think that's as the first step, that is major. If you can take away one of your plates and let somebody else spin it, then you've got less. It's not like you've got less to do, but you've got less to worry about a little bit.
Yeah.
And also not being afraid to actually, just take a breather, go out for a walk or take a half an hour breather or a couple of days and actually realize that, if I'm not working for a couple of days, business ain't going to fall off a cliff. It's still going to go, things, that's going to happen. So, try and take the pressure off a little bit that way as well, and you'll find you relax a little bit. Your stress levels go down, and But I think I'm certainly not one of these influencers on social media, but some of them do have a point that actually exercise is a really good way to stay healthy, and it doesn't have to be going to the gym and crunching out all these weights or whatever it is, but just go for a walk.
Yeah,
once, twice a day. It doesn't have to be very long. It has so many benefits for your body and your mind that, I couldn't recommend it more. I mean, for myself, whenever I'm at my base office or I'm visiting another office in the company, I always try and stay within about half an hour distance to the office. And the reason I do that is so I can walk there and walk back. And people think I'm crazy because in Calgary, it gets to -20, -30 degrees in the winter, and I'm still walking to the office. And they think I'm nuts. But at the end of the day, it's still it's forcing me to exercise a little bit. Which if I was just working and driving or getting the train and getting to the end of the day when you're really tired, the last thing you want to do is go to the gym. You want to just veg out a little bit, or eat or watch something or do a bit more work. So it's nice to, as not a very self-motivating person when it comes to exercise, it's nice to force myself, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you commented that. I think exercise is so key for, yes, our body, but also our sort of mental health as well, because actually the endorphins that get released, and like you say, just going for a walk, being in nature, just fresh air, it's so easy to get cooped up in your office, just working in front of a screen. And I'm working from home at the moment, and actually I have to make a conscious effort of scheduling time, because actually going out for a walk is as important for the business as me doing some finance work or creating some marketing stuff, because actually it clears my head and it allows me to turn up, be fresh, and actually work to a high performance sort of system, rather than otherwise I just get too bogged down. So exercise is key for your body and your mind.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more.
So talk to me, you mentioned about people in your company. You're obviously good, you go out for a walk. Do you work on the culture of your team, or are they very much you're hands off, or you're hands on with them? How do you operate with a team across different countries?
So how I do that is I try to stay in contact and obviously face-to-face visiting as much as I can. Obviously there are, we don't want to be flying around the world every week because obviously, obvious reasons. But, we try to make sure that, nobody feels left out. It is, as you say, if we've got quite a few offices close together in Western Canada, it's a little bit easier because it's quite local. It's almost like flying around Europe or something. But when you've got an office that's over the pond in London and you've got one even further in Europe still, you run the risk of people feeling isolated. Now, I've seen it where, we're quite a conscious company of that. I've seen it where there's companies might be based 1 hour up the road from another office and can make that office feel really isolated. And that really kind of resonates with a lot of us in the sense that we don't want to do that. And, we, even though we're not an hour away, we might be 9 hours, we're really conscious about making our people feel part of the same, thing, part of the same group. We've got an impact. They have a say. They belong. So I try to be as hands-on as possible. I also try not to step on toes too much as well. So we have, obviously we have leaders in certain parts of the company in geographical regions. These are really good people who have really built some good culture with their particular offices or regions. I mean, we talk about how we're all people, and at the end of the day, we're very similar, but there are obviously nuances or differences in geographical regions. We have an office in Vancouver, Western Canada, very different culturally to our Eastern Canada office in Toronto, and again, very different to our office in Serbia, in Belgrade, which is very different, and it all comes down to, I guess, what people's upbringing and what their growing up lives were. Some countries have had it easy, some really haven't had it easy at all. So it's kind of, we've got the right people looking after those people and setting the right culture, which makes my job a hell of a lot easier, because then all I'm doing is I'm supporting. I'm asking those guys, what can I do to help? Rather than telling them this is what we're going to do, it's more about what can I do to help you and support you and, make it better for these people.
Yeah, I love that. The sort of what can I do to help? They know their role, they know their job. You don't have to be, over their shoulder watching them at all times. But equally being there to support, saying what can I do to help? And just showing that actually you have got their best interest at heart. You're all working together to reach some end goals and things like that. And I love the fact that you're there, but not overwhelming them.
No, exactly. And I mean, for me, we do try to do things a little bit differently, and we even say to our clients, we're very different to the other consultants you may have worked with before. But even down to our kind of organizational structure, for me, it's people would say, managing director or a chief executive officer, CEO is there to point, tell them what to do and whip the whip and all this sort of stuff. And for me, it's not that at all. Actually, for me, the higher up the chain you are, the more you are there to serve the people in the company, is my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel we get, if I'm not there to dictate, obviously there's the hard conversations sometimes and the hard times where you've got to, step in a little bit and be a boss. But majority of the time, for me, it's about, what can I do for you? I'm here to serve you. I'm not here for you just to feed me. What can I do? How can I help? What do you need?
I love that. I think that's fantastic. You've given me some really good insights today into sort of how you've run the business and your take on everything. I want to finish today just by asking you, what advice would you give to someone considering starting their own business? So it could be, a similar story to yours. Actually, they're in an apprenticeship. The idea of running a business seems a long way away, certainly one across the globe. What advice would you give to someone?
Do it. I mean, again, I mentioned earlier, I've been asked, when's the best time? There is no best time. If you wait for the best time, it'll never come. Just do it, and also, if it doesn't work or, you see it like, I hate the word failure because I don't see it as failure. I see it as learning. I see it as opportunity to grow and develop and try again or whatever, but don't see it as, I failed. And, a lot of people, again, you mentioned it with the social media, people now care too much what necessarily image looks like or what other people think. And this is, I think, a problem we're going to have to deal with going forward and generationally now with the way social media is almost taking over the world. So my advice, because I was born in the 80s, I grew up in the 90s, I wasn't subject to social media and things like that. I kind of got to experience that like magical era in time. So it's easy for me to say, but it really, do it. Don't worry. If you fall over, push your knees off, try again. Be passionate about what it is that you do, and people will absorb to that passion.
Stuart, fantastic insights. I completely actually agree with you on those as well. I've learned a lot today. It's been fantastic to talk to you, and I wish you all the best with your business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.